So I want to talk to you guys about what it was like to debate Sean Hannity on his radio show. Unfortunately, I can't post the full thing here because Sean Hannity is known for taking down videos and copy striking smaller channels like mine that try to post our appearances. But I have left the entire 15-minute conversation in the description if you want to go to Sean Hannity's website and watch him ask me questions just to interrupt me so he can answer his own questions.
But what you're also going to leave out is that thousands of Americans found health insurance. Because before that...
Okay, now look, we actually have the results are in. Do you know what the results are?
The results are that 40,000 Americans in 2009 from a Harvard medical study found that they died every year because they just didn't have...
No, the result...
The thing I really wanted to talk about today is when he started to ask me some strange questions about religion. Sean Hannity does not know the difference between an atheist and an agnostic. I actually think he does, though, because he has debated atheists as famous as Christopher Hitchens on his show. I think the reason he purposely doesn't understand the definitions between communism and socialism, atheism and agnosticism, is because he really just likes to manipulate the meaning of words in order to confuse his audience or manipulate them into believing what he wants them to believe.
But the bottom line is, if you hold out the possibility that it just came out of nowhere, that means you actually hold out the belief that something can be built out of nothing.
If that's true, it would be pretty incredible and strange, but that's not unpredictable for our universe. I wouldn't pretend to know what it's up to.
Well, where did the energy to build the universe come from?
I mean, again, you're kind of, it's possible.
You believe something can come from nothing.
It's possible there actually was a creation. It could have been
so there's possible that there's a God or creator.
It's possible that multiple...
Well, I just turned you from an atheist into an agnostic.
Well, agnostics leave the door open for Jesus and Yahweh.
Well, do you now leave the door open that maybe a God created the energy?
A deity of some kind? It's possible. It could have been anything.
All right, so now I turned you in from an atheist. You can now answer the question when asked, I'm agnostic, I don't know.
In reality, Sean Hannity didn't let me finish any of my sentences in that debate, so a lot of my answers got cut out. So I thought this would be a good place to come and respond to some of the questions he asked me, since he didn't really want to hear my answers on his show when he was asking me those questions. One of the things he asked me that I thought was strange is, where did the energy to create the universe come from? Sean Hannity gave a very strange and inaccurate description of multiverse theory to me, and after asking me a very strange question about multiverse, he seemed to have this fundamental belief that atheists are certain that the universe was created from nothing, and that this is the only possibility that an atheist could believe where the universe comes from. I even gave him the answer that an agnostic leaves the door open for Jesus. I also tried to say that agnostics leave the door open for Yahweh and Buddhism and reincarnation and afterlife and souls and all kinds of spiritual ideas that atheists tend to reject just completely outright. But Sean Hannity was not really interested in an honest discussion between the difference of atheism and agnosticism. He really just wanted to place labels on me so he could convince his audience just how evil people really are on the left. The thing that he seems to not really let me finish, though, is when I try to give answers about the different ways the universe could have been created. He is, of course, certain on this idea of a single creator and references, of course, this being the Holy Father, and essentially says anyone who believes that it is possible that a deity could create the universe has to believe in the Holy Father. This is a very strange and dumb way to try to convince an audience that any conflation between his God and the rest of gods are always the same, that anyone who believes in creation to some extent, that the universe even had a beginning, is somehow admitting to the idea of Yahweh, the Jewish God who chose the Jewish people as a supremacist race and gave a bunch of land to their tribe in order to appease them. It's a very strange cult-like religion, from Judaism to Islam to Christianity. None of these religions make much sense when you look at this kind of mythology. But for some reason, Sean Hannity doesn't like to really understand what is going on with the religious arguments he's making. I also attempted to say that the universe could very well have always existed. The most terrifying possibility is that it never actually had a beginning, and that the very idea of eternity is here in the universe. It's actually strange to me that Christians have a concept of eternity. That concept of eternity to them is Yahweh. It is the Christian mythology. But when you suggest to some kind of theist or deist that the universe itself is what is actually infinite and eternal, that really seems to bother them. They don't like the idea that eternity has already been here in our own existence and that we're kind of just a small chapter in our universe's eternity. That scares the hell out of them too. And of course, he didn't like any of the ideas that there were multiple creators of this one universe, that it was a natural causation, something that, just happened naturally without any conscious reason to it, ended up giving birth to our universe. He does like to play with the idea that there are other universes and other types of reality. He doesn't really seem to make any specification on whether or not we are a massive universe and a world of small universe, if all universi are the same. These are strange concepts that I don't think he quite has his head around. I certainly don't. I'm not a physicist, and I don't pretend to try to talk about physics on these parts of my life. As much as I find them interesting, Sean Hannity unfortunately needs to dumb down these really complicated ideas for his audience who aren't really interested in them and just want to hear the things they believe repeated to them over the radio in Sean Hannity's voice. This, to me, was the strangest conversation that we could have had, because I called into the show talking about socialism, and after I finished kind of schooling him on points regarding healthcare and the way that he seems to believe our government has socialist policies in the way that it's rating funds like in Social Security. Very strange beliefs that Sean Hannity holds. I think it makes a lot of sense once he started to question me about religion, and you see just kind of how shallow Sean Hannity's mind is. He doesn't really have a good understanding of the spiritual world. He doesn't have a good understanding of physics, and this very baseline intelligence that Sean Hannity has is what he uses to build off the rest of his religious view of the world, and how he has morals that define why he thinks Americans should die by the thousands simply because they can't afford their medicine. Republicans are silly just in general, and I think it's pretty ridiculous how often they try to cite religion and morals, when in reality the Republican Party is a vicious party that seeks to lock up homeless people, gay people, minorities, immigrants, women seeking abortion here in my state. They just look for anyone and everyone, especially pot smokers, that they can chase down and arrest and put in jail that are private prisons with legalized slavery. The Conservative Party truly is a vicious entity. And when you call into their shows and you go to their events and you try to debate them, they lie, they cut you off, and they make sure that their lies are the most prominent thing around to be heard, because they know that when you actually start putting a little bit of intellectual curiosity into their ideas, they start falling apart. I was very disappointed to see that Sean Hannity's understanding of atheism and agnosticism has not really advanced at all within the last few decades of him actually getting to debate more and more of this subject. Unfortunately, when you are a newsman and your only job is to sell things on your radio show and do advertisement reads, it takes a toll on the rest of your mind. And I think we can see that with Sean Hannity in his old boomer age, where he doesn't really seem to have a good grasp of atheism and agnosticism. He doesn't really know or care about the differences in socialism and communism. These aren't interesting things to Sean Hannity. He just wants to say what gets him ad reads. He wants to say what sells. Conservatives are salesmen, and they're never going to tell you something unless it makes them money, because if it doesn't make them money, then it ought to not be true. That is the strangest thing about their movement. So I enjoyed debating Sean Hannity. I thought it was a very strange and wonderful experience. I think when you go to a dome of idiots and you surround yourself with idiocy and lunacy that is conservatism, and you kind of just show them, hey, this is what words mean. They have actual meanings, and some of the ideas you present are harmful and stupid. They don't take it well, and they shut you up, they cut you off, but I still have a fun time doing it. So that's what it was was like for me to debate Sean Hannity. Go to my description if you want to watch that full 15-minute debate, and make sure you give conservative radio that extra lifeblood it needs as it slowly dies in the 21st century.